Not so many years ago, the automobile was considered a luxury. About the only time it received an airing was on Sunday or a holiday. Today, millions of buses, trucks, and cars travel the highways from coast to coast. The number of cars on our city streets offers proof that for millions of people, automotive transportation is almost as much a necessity as a house.
Going old school right there. Gearheads have been rolling around on their backs, tinkering under cars since motorized vehicles were invented. It's been the inherent right of the car owner to do this, or so we thought. Now, General Motors says your car is a mobile computing device, and as a result, you do not own your car. You license it from them. Let's put the pedal to the metal. Welcome back, America's Car Coach, the woman who knows more about everything automotive than your local mechanic and who will drive the wheels off just about anything, even a Dodge, Lauren Fix. Hi, Lauren.
Oh, you had to get that dig in even when Ed wasn't there.
Ed told me to do it. All right, Lauren.
Okay, well, tell him thank you. Yeah, this is a very serious issue, actually. It's the Digital Millennial Copyright Act. Now, this was put in place when people started stealing, music off the internet, and everyone was trying to create their own music jams and everything, and they were not paying for it like we used to buy albums and CDs. So because of that, it's also spread into software, which is where the manufacturers, including GM, Ford, Chrysler, all the Japanese, and the Germans are not part of this, which I find very interesting, have said, you do not own your car. We own your car. You're just leasing it even if you own the car. You're borrowing our software. I say that is not good.
Well, the president got in a bit of trouble talking about business owners saying you didn't build that. Is GM going to take a little bit of heat after all this, or is this just something that's in a particular testimony that's being said, and it's not really that big of a deal for the average consumer?
I think that they've been hiding it, to be honest with you. I found it by accident by doing some research on another subject, and I said, what is this Digital Millennium Copyright Act? And as I read deeper, I found out that these manufacturers don't want you to work on your cars. They want you to come to the dealer. Now let's get the real facts out. I used to be a trainer for dealers, so there's full disclosure here. And I know that they only get 30% retention. So for every 100 cars that are sold, only 30 go back to the dealer. Sure, they'd like to have more people coming back to the dealer, but some people don't want to. And if there's full maintenance involved, they might only get half of those people because they still go elsewhere. How do you get them in? You force them to go in. You can't work on your own car. You can't even touch your wiper blades. And when you pop the hood on new cars, there's a big piece of plastic over the engine that basically says, don't touch it. So they're doing whatever they can to get people to bring their cars back to the dealer. And we all don't want to do that. Some of us, like myself, like to do my own work.
It's going to be
they want to stop.
Well, Lauren, I was going to say, it's going to be interesting to see maybe in the next commercials, are they going to say, come and buy a GM, or maybe come and license a GM? It just doesn't really sound as good.
You won't hear that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think we will. Staying with GM, a condition of the ignition switch recall was strict oversight on GM, and federal safety regulators just extended that oversight a year. Why?
Well, because we just found out that less than 50%, somewhere between 42 and 48% of people actually go back for recalls. Sometimes they feel it's not important. Sometimes they're not educated. Sometimes they have no way of knowing about it because the car has changed hands, they've moved. So if less than 50% of people are getting their cars recalled, they're putting it on General Motors to somehow get people there. If that means ads, that means digitally online communication, they'd love to have 100%. Is that possible? No, because some vehicles are in salvage yards or in disassembled form. But the truth is, if we can get better than 50%, that would be good. So they're putting the screws to GM saying, you know what? You better figure out how to get people in the dealership. And we're going to stay on board and make sure you're doing your part. So it's good for us, but I don't like when the government gets involved because, being a capitalist, people like to, they'll do it if they know about it, and there's ways of educating people without being forced to do it.
Well, the oversight will continue. We'll be following that. Speaking of recalls, history made. The Takata airbag recall covers 33.8 million vehicles from nearly 24 brands. One expert calling this the most complex consumer safety recall in U.S. history. Talk about that a little bit, Lauren.
Well, this is actually a bigger recall than a Tylenol recall. So if you remember that, depending upon what age you are, but this is very interesting because these airbags are on multiple vehicles. Now, initially, Takata tried to blame the brands, but the manufacturers are not at fault here. When you purchase a product, especially across multiple brands and multiple models, and the product comes in inappropriately assembled, in this case, they changed the chemical that causes the discharge for the inflator to come out. That's the airbag itself. But when they did it, and they did it back in '08, this new chemical is still a problem. So you're getting brand new vehicles and vehicles back to 2000 that are absorbing moisture, changing the chemical structure, and causing the airbag to deploy at higher rates. Now, when the NHTSA grabbed 8 different airbags from 8 different cars, they all deployed in an inappropriate way. In other words, too fast, too hard, and this is a real problem because it's causing deaths. How is it causing deaths? Those metal frames that go around the airbag that holds it to the steering wheel, and also on the passenger side that retains it into the dash, is literally blowing apart and metal shards are coming out. We've had 6 deaths and over 100 injuries that we're aware of so far.
34 million vehicles. Is there a particular manufacturer being hit harder than most?
Yeah, Honda and Toyota are getting hit hardest the most because they were the largest purchaser of Takata airbags. I did talk to someone at Honda. They said they are using a different supplier on their newer cars, and I don't blame them. But all these other manufacturers, literally every Japanese manufacturer, all the domestics each have 1 or 2 models that are using Takata airbags, and 1 BMW, but it's a 3 Series and it's very select. So what you want to do is get your vehicle identification number off your registration, off the dash, off your insurance card somewhere. Call it into your local dealer if you don't want to get online, or you can go to safercar.gov, which is the NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration website. Put in your vehicle identification number. If you're on the recall list, don't wait. And here's a tip. If you don't want to drive that car, you feel unsafe, demand a rental.
And the car of the week, we didn't get a chance to get to it, the 2015 BMW X6M. You like though,
yes,
right?
I love it.
Thumbs
I had
up.
a great time driving it on the track.
1 to 10, 10?
It's a 10 for sure.
All right, thanks a lot, Lauren Fix. After the break, we catch up with the latest headlines, and later we're going to talk about Wall Street.